Welcome to Biology, My Passion. I am Soumya Harikrishna. We have been dealing with the chapter Molecular Basis of Inheritance. In the previous modules, we learned the structure of DNA in detail, also the packaging of DNA. We know by 1865, Mendel published his result of his experiments in garden peas. He formulated the theories of inheritance, but he could not explain what was carrying the information from one generation to the other. So he just used the term factor. 1869, Frederick Miescher identified an acidic substance in the nucleus and he named it as nuclein. Then 1889, Altman called it as nucleoid. Then by 1900, Sutton and Boveri proposed a chromosomal theory of inheritance. Microscopy was developing, so chromosomes became visible. And by 1926, the study became more in the molecular level. DNA, protein or RNA, all these three molecules are present within the nucleus. So still it had to be confirmed that DNA is the genetic material. So the first and the interesting experiment was done by Frederick Griffith, and his experiment is known as transforming principle. He conducted his experiments in certain bacteria and he observed some transformation in bacteria. What do you mean by transformation? Transformation means complete change. So during the lifetime, a living form was completely changing. That was his observation. That's why we call this experiment as transforming principle. So he conducted his experiment in a type of bacterium called a Streptococcus pneumoniae, or it is otherwise called a Diplococcus pneumoniae, or we simply say Pneumococcus bacterium. Two strains are there. A strain, which is otherwise called a smooth strain, and R strain, otherwise called a rough strain. Why is it smooth and rough? This one is rough in appearance, whereas this one has got, the S strain or the smooth strain has got a polysaccharide coating over it, making it smooth in appearance. Okay? But the smooth one is the virulent type. Virulent means what? The pathogen that can cause a disease. So, a strain bacteria having a smooth coating seems to be virulent or causes pneumonia. Whereas the rough strain without that smooth coating is non-virulent, or that bacteria cannot cause disease. He used these two bacteria in mice for his experiment. So what he did? First he injected S-type bacterium. S-type bacterium, we know it can cause pneumonia. S-type bacteria were injected into mouse and the mouse died because of pneumonia, because S-type is virulent. Now second, R-type was injected. R-type bacterium cannot cause disease, pneumonia, so mouse lived. In the third type, what he did? He heat killed the S-type. That means by heating, he killed the bacterium. You know, once the bacteria are killed, they cannot cause any disease. So here also, while heating them, they are dead, so they are no more pathogenic. Injected into mouse and the mouse lived. No pneumonia, because this is non-virulent now. We killed it. Then next, heat killed S and R-type. Both are non-pathogenic. This is virulent but heat kill, so non-pathogenic. This is R-type, already non-pathogenic. Both were mixed and injected into mouse. But to his surprise, mouse died of pneumonia. Then he was wondering, what caused pneumonia? Because heat killed alone cannot cause, R-type alone cannot cause pneumonia, but still mouse found dead. Autopsy was done and he could find living bacteria within the body of this dead mice. So he was surprised. How could this happen? How could all these mice die because of pneumonia? So he understood the S-type dead one cannot come back to life. That is obvious. But this R-type must have transformed into S. But who must have transformed it? The heat killed S. So some transforming principle from the heat killed bacterium must have transformed the R-type non-virulent type of bacteria into the virulent type or the S type. So he found it is the genetic material that was transformed, but he couldn't find what was the genetic material, whether it was DNA, RNA or protein. So this is called a Griffith's transforming principle. So Griffith could not explain what was the transforming principle. Then later, from 1933 to 1944, three scientists conducted various experiments. They actually continued the work of Griffith to prove the biochemical nature of the transforming principle. Who were those three scientists? Oswald Avery, Colin MacLeod and Maclean McCarthy. So these three scientists actually continued from where Griffith stopped. So what they did, we found that in the dead mice, they found the living S-type bacteria. So the S-type bacteria, they fractionated or separated into different biochemical components like protein, just I represented like this, DNA and carbohydrates. Then what they did, they took three different cultures, okay, each containing R-type bacteria. We know R-type bacteria cannot cause disease. Then the first one culture of R-type, they added protein. In the second one, they added DNA. Third one, they added carbohydrate. And they injected separately into mice. Which one would die now? They found that only the one mixed with the DNA transformed. Or the R-type became S-type. So transformation took place only with the DNA. So they found that the trait of virulence is present in DNA. Now what is actually by the word meaning of transformation here? It is nothing but the transfer of a part of DNA from the surrounding medium or from a donor. Here in this case, Griffith's experiment, it was a dead bacterium donor to the living bacteria which are the recipients to form a recombinant DNA. So that is called a transformation. Transfer of a part of DNA from the surrounding medium or the donor dead bacteria to living recipient bacteria to form recombinant bacteria. But they did not stop this experiment. To have further confirmation, they again did one more experiment. They added first protease enzyme. You know, protease enzyme is an enzyme acting on protein. So it will denature the protein or digest the protein. So when they added protease enzyme and conducted the experiment, they found still the mice dying of pneumonia. So that means protein is not the factor because protein was removed but still transformation is happening. Then they injected RNase enzyme or added RNase enzyme. So RNA was removed but still the transformation was taking place. But when DNase enzyme was used, DNA was digested but the transformation did not happen. So from that they concluded DNA is the genetic material or DNA is the transforming principle. But still all biologists were not convinced by this confirmation. The unequivocal proof that DNA is the genetic material came from the experiments done by Alfred Hershey and Martha Chase in the year 1952. So after this, no experiment was done in this field just to find out DNA is the genetic material. This was a confirmational experiment. So they used bacteriophages. You know bacteriophages are viruses that attack bacteria. So suppose when they are attacking a bacterium, the structure of a bacteriophage consists of a protein coat and within that the genetic material. Here it is DNA is the genetic material. So when they are infecting a bacterium, their protein coat cannot go inside, only the DNA will be sent inside. So here is the actual chromosome of our bacterium. So this DNA of the virus will also come and incorporate here and it will multiply along with the bacterial DNA. So the virus can eventually multiply within the bacterium, which is the host. So this is the actual process of infection. But that time it was not known. So basically Hershey and Chase conducted the experiments to find whether the protein is going inside or the DNA is going inside. So that is the genetic material, right? So how did they do the experiment? They made two culture plates to grow the viruses. The bacteriophages were grown in radioactive phosphorus. Another culture was radioactive sulfur. What is the significance of phosphorus and sulfur here? As I mentioned, the bacteriophage has got only two parts, a protein and a DNA. Protein consists of sulfur as a component, whereas phosphorus is a component of DNA. So now we can imagine, if a bacteriophage is grown in a for radioactive phosphorus, which part will become radioactive? We know the DNA will become radioactive because DNA has phosphorus in it. So I will use red color for radioactivity. So in this case, DNA became radioactive, but the protein coat is still normal. Whereas in the second culture, where viruses were grown in radioactive sulfur, which part became radioactive? The protein coat became radioactive because protein took up the sulfur. So there, the protein coat is now red color, where DNA is normal. So the red indicates the radioactivity. They continued the experiment using Escherichia coli bacteria. So Escherichia coli bacteria were allowed to infect by the bacteriophage. Now we know we have two types of bacteriophages, one grown in radioactive sulfur where the protein coat has become radioactive, whereas the other set is grown in radioactive phosphorus where the DNA became radioactive because phosphorus is a part of DNA. Now the experiment was conducted in three stages. First stage is infection, that means E. coli was allowed to infect by bacteriophage. Then once the infection was going on, we know that the protein coat is attached to the surface. So to remove or detach the protein coat of the virus from the bacterium, they blended it using a blender. So this experiment is also called a blender experiment. So that was the second stage, blending. So once we blend it, it's like a mixer jar, they blended so that the two particles separated, virus coat separated, bacteria separated. Then the third stage, but though they separated, they are in the same mixture. So now to separate them, they used centrifugation. You know, centrifugation is rotating them at a particular speed. We can separate out the fractions or component. When they did that, the supernatant had the viral coat, whereas the pellet which was settled at the bottom had the bacteria. Okay, so when they found, so we now know that the bacteriophage attacks the bacterium, only the DNA is going inside. So in the first case, the radioactive coat was having sulfur, but the DNA was normal. So in this case, when they did, no radioactivity was seen in the cell, or the pellet did not have any radioactivity, but the supernatant was radioactive. It had radioactive sulfur because the viral coats or the protein coats of the virus had the radioactivity. Okay, whereas in the second set, what they did, the infectious agent was having a radioactive DNA. So they found the pellets were radioactive, which contained radioactive phosphorus, whereas the viral coat was, or the supernatant was free of radioactivity. So they understood the viral coat did not go inside, right? Only the infectious agent, what was the infectious agent here? The DNA went inside. So they found, or they confirmed finally, that DNA is the genetic material, or it is the transforming principle. From the previous experiments, we found that DNA is the genetic material, and Hershey and Chase ruled out the possibility of protein being a genetic material through their experiment. But still we know that some of the viruses have RNA as their genetic material, like tobacco mosaic virus. Then majority of the organisms have DNA as the genetic material. So both RNA as well as DNA can act as genetic material, but DNA must be a better genetic material. That is why during the course of evolution, majority of organisms are having DNA as the genetic material. Now let us see what makes DNA a better genetic material. So to find out that answer, first we have to discuss certain characteristics of a good genetic material. So if you want to have a proper genetic material, it should have certain qualities. What are they? First one, it should be able to replicate. Means if it is making its own copy, only then it can pass on to the next generations. So if you consider replication as a property, can DNA replicate? Of course, DNA can replicate and make a copy of it. So DNA is passing this test. But what about RNA? Yes, RNA can also replicate. So both are qualified in the first characteristics. Second, they should be structurally and chemically stable, because during the lifetime there should not be drastic changes occurring to our genetic material. We should be more or less having the same features from our birth till death. Only other physiological changes and the natural growth process should happen, or aging process should happen. There should not be drastic changes. Or with the climatic changes, or with our age or physiology, there should not be much changes. So more or less it should be stable structurally as well as chemically. So if you consider that DNA is a very stable genetic material, but when we come to RNA, it's doubtful, because RNA has an additional 2-OH group, right? So 2-OH group makes the RNA more reactive compared to DNA. DNA does not have that, right? So that is one of the reasons why the RNA is more reactive. Second, RNA is a catalyst. It has got catalytic activity. So naturally it is more reactive. Catalysts are more reactive. Then third one, it has got uracil instead of thymine. DNA has thymine, which gives it more stability, whereas having uracil, RNA is more reactive. So because of these three characteristics, RNA is very reactive, so it is unstable. So in this test, who is passing? DNA is scoring point, whereas RNA is now little down. Now, so score for slow mutation. You know, mutations are sudden changes but heritable changes. These changes are required. They may not be always good, but still they are required for the process of evolution. So when you see DNA, they can mutate. RNA, yes, RNA can also mutate. Both of them are able to mutate, but the problem is DNA can able to mutate at a slower rate. We want only slow mutation to happen, because faster mutation means what? Sudden changes will occur. That may not be helping the organism to adjust with the changing environment. So DNA is undergoing slow mutation, whereas when it comes to RNA, though it mutates, but the mutation rate is very fast. For example, in case of viruses, they mutate very fast. That's why their form is changing. Every now and then new forms of viruses are being formed. And we are finding it very difficult to find a cure for many of the viral infections. And also, express in the form of Mendelian characters. That is another quality they both should possess. Mendelian characters means what? They should be able to produce a protein. That is, gene should make it proteins, and protein means character. So in that, both of them have the quality. Both DNA as well as RNA can make proteins and express as characters, but only thing, DNA it is a slower rate, RNA again it is a faster rate. So overall, if you see which molecule has scored more points, DNA. So DNA is a better genetic material when we consider all these characteristics. Though RNA does not have all the qualities of the best genetic material, but still we know in our body, though our genetic material is DNA, RNA plays important role in the form of adapter molecules or messenger molecules. Because we know that for protein synthesis, proteins means what? Our characters, right? So for protein synthesis, RNA is required, because our genetic material DNA first gets transformed into RNA, only then it can form a protein. So without RNA, our characters cannot be expressed. So RNA is a genetic material which can directly code for protein. But still we prefer DNA as the genetic material, because for storing the information, DNA is better because DNA is more stable. But for expressing a character, RNA is required. Hope you enjoyed the lesson. Please like, share and subscribe to my channel. Biology, my passion.